2020. Officially will convene this regular Board of Teller County Commissioner meeting. And today is March 7th. We're meeting in Teller County Centennial Building, Cooper Creek, Colorado. And we're welcome to have you all here. We'll go ahead and get started. And Mr. Williams will lead us in the invocation, and JT will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thanks, sir.
Please bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another opportunity to serve and lead as residents of Teller County. We live in a broken world and in a divided nation. It's a time of leadership change this year now. We pray that your will be done and that we can once again be a great nation. In his name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, for leading us in those two. First up, we have some minutes from the February 20th meeting. This is our last meeting, I think. I didn't have any noted corrections, so.
I didn't either. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I have reviewed and I don't have any corrections or changes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, could we read a motion on that set of minutes?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the February 2024 minutes as written and as presented.
Second?
Assuming no other discussion, roll call please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes, thank you. Next up, we have an accounts payable run from March 5th. I didn't have any notes to present of any significance, so.
I did not either, Mr. Chair.
I mean, sure, it's pretty standard this month, and it does have our gaming grant information on that we discussed, but other than that, we'd like to make a motion. Mr. Stone.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve accounts payable in the amount of $849,639.50 dated March 5th, 2024 as presented.
Second the motion.
Assuming no other discussion, roll call Ms. Keys.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Campbell?
Yes. Thank you. Our next item is board reports. If we're set for that, I'll have you go ahead and start, Commissioner Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and buckle up, everybody. I got a long list. Obviously, we are in the depths of the legislative season, and pretty much everything I'm going to talk about today is legislative. And actually, everything I'm going to talk about today is on one subject, which is the protection of the Second Amendment, which this current legislature that we have is currently, frankly, waging war against. I have a super long list of every gun bill or anti-gun bill. Actually, there's one that was a good gun bill that I'm going to talk about too, that just to show contrast within this. I'm going to throw my glasses on so I can read my chicken scratches here. And I'll go through this fairly quickly. And I know we have press online, so hopefully they'll pick up on a lot of this. And the reason I'm bringing all these up is because, frankly, we need your help. And I know we don't always get a lot of people to our meetings, but we do rely on the press and others to help spread the word on what we're working on as commissioners. But we can't do it all alone, and we do go. And we go and we'll be up there the first opportunity that one of these bills comes up, which I believe is on March 13th at committee. I will be at, I'm sure others will be at, to testify against, to help protect the rights of our residents. But I'm going to go through these as quickly as I possibly can. One of them is HB 241123, and this is to allocate money for firearm school detection systems. And they don't even really define what that means. And we all would certainly not want firearms in our schools, but personally, I would really rather than seeing them spend money on some kind of technology that tries to prevent firearms from being smuggled into schools, is instead spend money on helping us pay for SROs, helping us pay for actual, law enforcement officers to be in schools and help protect our kids. So it's just a waste of money for them to do that because as we know from, the history of when people go into schools is that they're they're not generally hiding them in backpacks. They're walking in openly and brazenly, and with the intent of committing evil. And we need to be stopping evil, and the way you do that is with armed law enforcement. So again, there's a better way to spend that money. The next one will affect a lot of folks here in Teller County that have home FFL permits, and even our regular storefront firearms dealers, which is HB 24-1353. This will create a new registration for firearms dealers in the state of Colorado, will require everyone to submit to CBI in order to receive now a Colorado firearms license, not a federal firearms license, and go through an additional check through CBI, even though there's an extensive and very lengthy FBI check to become a licensed federal firearms dealer. And then they're also going to charge each one of them $400 a year. $400 a year to have a Colorado firearms dealer's license. And we have a lot of home-based FFLs. We have gunsmiths have to have an FFL. So this really, really impacts a lot of our residents who are FFLs. And there's people that build guns and sell them legally, as they should be able to. But HB 24-1353, we need to oppose. HB 24-1349, this one is a firearms and ammunition tax. The flat out tax on firearms and ammunition. They've tried this in California. It's currently in the process of being overturned in California. But it's very simple. This has already been decided in that you cannot tax a right. There's a very famous Supreme Court case, which is the Minneapolis Star versus whoever the Attorney General is. Paul, you might be able to help me out with the second half of that case, but it's Minneapolis Star that sued because there was a tax that was placed on newspapers. And it was on newspapers only, and it was again, it was a tax on the First Amendment. It was an attack on the First Amendment. And the Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional because they were taxing a right, and you cannot tax a right. So this is exactly what they're doing here in taxing firearms and ammunition. Or trying to tax firearms and ammunition, is that it's a tax on firearms, and thus it's unconstitutional. HB 24-1270 is a bill that would establish that every firearm owner in Colorado must obtain liability insurance, and it instructs that every insurance company that provides homeowners insurance or renters insurance must include an option for people to insure themselves against liability, evidently from negligent discharge within their homes. But there's a bunch of problems with this. First off, is it's a mandate to purchase something, which I don't think that you can be mandated to purchase something in relation to a right. Again, we're into rights, and you cannot tax a right. And then this is kind of a backdoor tax on a right. But additionally, though, is that there are a lot of renters out there that don't have or can't afford renter's insurance. Essentially, if you own a firearm, they're now telling you have to buy renter's insurance. And as part of that renter's insurance, you have to have liability insurance. So again, this needs to be opposed as well. They're also creating under SB 24-066 a new firearms merchant category for credit card transactions, which is essentially a backdoor tracking system or registration for firearms and ammunition purchases, to where law enforcement would be able to go in and pull categories and find out whether or not you purchased firearms, whether you purchased ammunition, merely by looking at the categories on a credit card statement. Another one is, and this was the only good one, HB 24-1162, increasing penalties for theft of firearms. You may remember that in previous legislative sessions that they've now, if you have a firearm stolen or lost and it's not reported within a certain number of days, I believe it's either 30 or 60 days, to law enforcement that you were the criminal, you will be charged with a civil penalty. But this bill actually proposes to increase the penalty on those who actually stole the firearm. And it was defeated in committee and died. So they don't want to increase penalties for those who actually steal the firearms, but they want to make you as a law-abiding citizen a criminal for failure to report a lost or a stolen firearm. Next one, HB 24-1348, which is the Secure Vehicle Firearms Storage Bill. This one would require that if you ever transport a firearm in your vehicle, that it must be in a locked hard-sided container and not visible from outside the vehicle. Now, for those of us who go hunting, for those of us who go to the range, those of us who do any recreational shooting where you transport firearms, this is completely unworkable. It's not uncommon when I go shooting, and I'm sure for my fellow commissioners and fellow citizens, when you go shooting, you might take 2, 3, 4 rifles out, a couple of handguns. There is no way to lock all of those into locking containers within a vehicle. And I own a pickup truck. It's not easy to conceal stuff in a pickup truck. So how I'm supposed to store this out of sight, I do not know. If you have an SUV that's full of windows, I don't know how you're supposed to do it in a way that they can't see that there's a case there for a firearm that's locked. So it's completely unworkable, and it's designed primarily, again, to take law-abiding citizens and turn them into criminals. Because if you head off to the range and you throw a gun case in the back of your vehicle and it's not hard-sided locked, then you're now a criminal, and there's civil penalties for that. Next one, SB 24-131. This one, for every resident that has a concealed handgun permit in the state of Colorado, it is going to create a patchwork of places that they call sensitive spaces where you can no longer carry a firearm. And in doing so, again, they are turning law-abiding citizens into criminals, because the patchwork of this and the ridiculousness of this list is simply unworkable, which is what they want. They actually want law-abiding citizens to no longer conceal carry, because they've made it so incredibly difficult that even being present in a parking lot with a concealed handgun would become illegal. Going to church with a concealed handgun would be illegal. Going to events. Well, we have events all the time. We have all kinds of things going on. We have a farmer's market in Woodland Park. That would be considered an event. So just going to the farmer's market, you would not be able to conceal carry. Even though it's outdoor in public space, you would not be able to carry. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a complete infringement. There are other, they're copying stuff that's been done in Illinois and California. They're in the process of being overturned, but I don't know why we want to waste taxpayer money to defend ridiculous, unconstitutional laws. And I've got 3 more here, if you'll hang with me, gentlemen. One was one we've already testified against, which is SB 24-003. This gives the CBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, essentially police powers throughout the state of Colorado to investigate firearms violations. And that could be anything from a rejected Form 4473 when you're trying to purchase a firearm, all the way up to, and the concerns of our sheriff is that if they investigate, for example, a home defense, and they have decided that the investigation does not need to go forward because a person was exercising their right to defend themselves in their own home under Colorado's Castle Doctrine, that the CBI can now step in and they can open their own investigation. If we have a law enforcement officer is involved in an officer-involved shooting that both the district attorney and the sheriff have decided was a lawful shooting, the CBI can come in on top of that and launch their own investigation. And there are other states where they have that authority, and we've seen how those turn out, which is usually badly, because usually juries see through the type of prosecutions that we're concerned about. So we've been testifying against it, but it is progressing. I think it's over in appropriations right now, and then we'll be headed to the House if it gets through there. But we strongly oppose that. HB 24-13-10 would make it illegal for any school district to have trained security officers who are not trained armed security officers who are not law enforcement. It would no longer be able to employ or have volunteers come in who've been trained in order to provide school security. And again, they're leaving the doors wide open for people to be able to come into defenseless places. And I think that's just completely wrong. And the last one, and I don't know if it's the worst one of the bunch because they're all really, really bad. HB 24-1292, which is the latest iteration of the assault weapons ban, or so-called assault weapons ban. This one, as written, would allow you to keep anything you've already purchased, but our children, anybody who moves here, anybody who hasn't purchased a semi-automatic weapon will no longer be able to do so. And semi-automatic firearms represent, best guess, probably 80% of all firearms sold right now. So, it it would ban whole classes of firearms purchase and transfer within the state of Colorado. Again, these are being overturned. Illinois has already done it, it's being overturned. California's already done it, it's being overturned. Why are we wasting taxpayer dollars to do this? And frankly, to those legislators, why are you so intent upon infringing upon an oath that I took, an oath that they took to defend the Constitution? And they're not doing that. So that's the full list. And again, I'm bringing this up because we need your help. And you may ask, well, how can I help? Well, first off, you can reach out to me and I will, be happy to tutor you on the best ways to give testimony. You can do it in writing. You can do it online. You can, testify remotely like you would with any Zoom meeting. You can do it that way, or you can do what the commissioners do most of the time, which is we get in the vehicle, we drive to Denver, and we get in front of them and we look at them in their eye and we talk to them logically. We don't insult them. We talk to them, about rights. We talk to them about our founders, and we talk to them, about why these bills are bad. And sometimes we get movement. Sometimes we actually do get killed. Last year we got the assault weapons ban killed. I'm hopeful we'll get it killed again, because this is even, and it's kind of funny because I always say, well, I hope they make it worse than last year on the assault weapons ban. I hope they write just really stupid stuff in it, because then it's easier to defeat both in the legislature and in court. And by golly, they did that. They made it much more stupid. So again, I'm asking for your help. You can also just go online, look up these bills. And actually, if you just do a search at the legislature under bills for firearms, then apply it for the 2024 session, you'll get a list of all these, because that's how I wrote my list, was I did that particular search today. So we need your help, not just on these bills. I'm bringing these up, but there are a lot of other bills that will impact your lives. For not the first time, but perhaps in the largest number of bills that will actually impact the day-to-day lives of the residents of Teller County, this is the year, and we need your help. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Stone. Commissioner Williams, Board Report.
Yeah, I was just gonna repeat everything Eric said. Hey, look, all seriousness with our guests here today, and also the press and the folks online, is we're phalanxed on this. We're shoulder to shoulder on our Second Amendment. What I would say to add to what Eric said on that particular issue, and we'll talk about some successes, is there's not a single bill being introduced on mental health. All three of us, everybody up here has guns, and none of us have ever, other than being in combat as a soldier, we've never pointed them at a fellow human being or committed a crime. This is about mental health, and it's sad once again to see that the hard issue is HIPAA, and HIPAA doesn't talk to the CBI databases, and we talked about that, but we're not going to give up. What Eric is trying to say, and he said very eloquently, everybody in this room has an opinion about national politics. Everybody understands the world is falling apart now. We all want it to be better. We can exercise our vote, but what you can really do is spend 3 minutes of your time either in Denver or online talking to these folks. And relationships matter. I'll talk about a few things where relationships matter, but here's the reality, folks, is just under 6 million people in Colorado, 5 million of them live on the Front Range. Right now, we're a blue state. And so to have any success as a Republican right now does depend on relationships, does depend on going up there and talking to them. And the last thing I'll say in terms of the Second Amendment and the bills that he's talking about, and there are others, is a disproportionate impact on rural Colorado. So rural Colorado, out of 64 counties, is still 47 counties that are rural frontier, with about 800,000 of us who live up here, including people in this room. That's who they're impacting. They're impacting your lifestyle. So it's really important. And we'll go over a few others. So thank you, Eric, for your passion on that. And again, all three of us have that. We'll be up testifying quite a bit. In case you don't know, there's 100 bills more this year at this time than it was last year at this time. And so they just keep coming, and the progressive part of that party is pretty progressive. And they like to turn us into a city, which we're not. I'll then move to a couple of our other board reports. CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocate. I sit on that executive board, and those are the folks that go and testify to the judges on behalf of our children. Last year, just a few data points for folks. Last year, they did 667 children in 2022. That does include El Paso County and Teller. Sadly, this year already in March, 26 children in Teller County are under CASA supervision. So that's a result of domestic violence, some other things they're trying to do with their parents. But that's a very, very real issue here as well. So I'm grateful they have that. It still costs $1,692 per CASA. Those are the advocates, people like those of you in the room that come forward and step forward to help these kids. And like a lot of DHS and a lot of our nonprofit work, especially dealing with some of the worst parts of our families, CASA reported yesterday that they've had a 34% turnover rate in their staff. And so what that really means, if you're a kid pre-puberty and you've got a CASA that's trying to help you through a long-term issue, you may see multiple staff people trying to get you to 18, that you can be liberated and go out and have a good life. So just pray for those folks, and it's a great program. They will have an April 18th Light of Hope, which is a fundraiser down in the Springs I'll be putting out. It's different than what we do in Tyler, but we like to support both those. Commissioners had an opportunity to also attend another program that looks at a part of our society that we are struggling with, and that's suicide prevention. And suicide prevention, that was last week. All three commissioners were there, and I got a chance to say some open remarks, but just to remind folks, in the past 20 years, and this is not a denominator thing as the United States gets bigger, but we've had a 37% increase in suicide. Part of that is that's a 20-year war in there. There's a lot of veteran numbers in there as well. We're still losing way too many veterans. As a reminder, Teller County has 5,000 veterans, so we're at risk as well. Also altitude. You know, I talked a little bit about statistically folks that live at altitude that have the weather patterns that we're having now. A lot of cabin fever, a lot of isolated people. We have a higher than normal suicide rate just because of that. And then sadly, and most importantly for me and the commissioners, is that there are two demographics that are committing suicide a lot more than others. And that's 10 through 14, that's our kids, and that's a tragedy, and 21 to 30. So 10 to 14, obviously the broken homes, the LGBTQ, the drugs, whatever it is that makes people who don't have support structures want to harm themselves. We need to focus on particularly our schools here. And then 21 to 30, because that's where you're trying to launch. Your parents say goodbye to you, and now you're an adult, and it's tough to find a house. It's tough to find a job. So I just say for Teller County residents, if you see something, say something. You know, we all know our neighbors and friends. I know the veterans, we do a pretty good job at that, but really good program, really well attended, standing room only. We also got the opportunity to go with our sheriff. And by the way, Jason was up in, to Eric's point, he was up in Denver yesterday. We go with him. He goes with us shoulder to shoulder. Yesterday it was a sort of clean needle, dirty needle exchange program that he went to talk about. And so he's a pretty activist as well, and a friend of all of ours. But we went to Victor with him. There was a concern in this part of the county, which is my district, south of 24, with the ice castles, which we're not against, but with all the tourism that's up here, with some of the homelessness, with some of the migrant rumors, you name it. There's just a lot of the local people that have been there a long time that wanted to hear from law enforcement. They wanted to see their commissioner. So we spent last week in the sheriff's, with the sheriff in the fire station with a standing room only, talking to him about some of the initiatives we have, the improvements that we've been able to do for law enforcement in terms of their capability. And for those that don't know, Victor doesn't have its own police force. It's the county. So very well attended. I know we've seen a couple of notes we got back and we looked at it. Just to end on a couple of notes with bills. And so when you live in a blue state and you're in the minority, those minority opinions matter, especially for rural Colorado. There are some good folks up in Denver that just don't understand how we live up here. And so we seem to get a lot of success when we take it back to a rural standpoint. So one of those is land use. There are 5 land use bills with accessory dwelling units. We talk about it a lot, but you know, I'll just say it again for the audience in here and for the press. If someone had the idea that we could fix affordable housing in Denver, they'd fix it just like that if we would just lift occupancy limits in our homes. Well, if you live on a septic system, you know that's not possible. Those are set by bedrooms, and there's a certain point where you're not going to be able to process septic, and it's going to become your drinking water from on a well system. So shocking to us that those folks don't know your average legislature is 26 years old, an idealist, and has never been at the local level before. So it's how the world ought to be. It's not how the world is. And so we fight that. So we were successful there. So far, there's no land use bill that's negatively affecting rural Colorado or certainly Teller County. Clean energy, you may recall that the Biden administration 2 years ago had a plan that said we're going to put 25 gigawatts of solar panels on federal land. And of course, our county is 50% federal land, so we were concerned. Nobody is fighting it, but there are a lot of issues that have come up. When I was in Washington, D.C. last month at NACO, we looked at this and we're looking at it now. So there's a bill that Colorado is trying to push before we even have the input from the federal government, mandating a bunch of things. But if you think about it as a property owner and you think about where BLM is, it's not near the big cities, it's out here. And so what if we don't work well with this, you could end up having, 500 panels in your backyard. Where's the transmission line? Well, we're just going to cut through Vicky's property and take your property from you. And then we're going to feed the front range that's already consuming our water and everything else. So very interesting. Environmentalists have fought this. Energy folks are looking at it, but the bill that's been introduced really tries to mandate a lot of things that don't need to be mandated. there's nothing broken. So we're working on that one. All three commissioners got involved in two major issues. I do sit on the CPW Wildlife Council. There was an attempt, and this is a great example of what Eric and Bob talk a lot about, relationships matter. So the Agricultural Committee had a recommendation to make and a decision to make on CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and they had three pretty leftist center anti-hunters and fishermen they were going to put on that board. If you think about it, that breaks the law, breaks statute. The tiebreaker that caused those to get voted down happened to be a Democrat, happened to be someone all three of us know who also was a recipient of the wolves. So he was already mad at CPW because they weren't very transparent. So some of the line of questioning was, and I'm not being disparaging, I'm just telling you how it went, to the lady who happened to be female. Ma'am, could you name 5 parks in Colorado? No, sir, I can't. Have you ever owned a parks pass? No, sir, I haven't. Have you ever purchased a hunting or fishing license? No, sir, I haven't. I mean, just think about that. That's not red or right or blue. That's not left or center, right or center. That's ignorance. It's someone that shouldn't be on a commission charged with wildlife and parks. So, but again, Dylan Roberts was a Democrat, and he's the one that was the deciding vote. So we are taking some ground back. We are being heard. All three commissioners wrote a letter that was read, and we received a notification from that senator that that letter made a difference, along with some other ones. So there's a good example. Last one was water. We talk a lot about water. We're lucky this year the watershed is full. However, there was a bureaucrat, unelected, temporary person sitting in a position 2 down from the highest people in Colorado, from Dan Gibbs, that just arbitrarily decided that the springs that flow up here, which are on everybody's property, they come out, they go right back in. If you have your rights, they're called feudal water rights, which means it's futile to call the water downrange. You're not going to get any benefit of it. They wanted to overmanage that, cause you to pay money for it, cause you to do something different. Again, as I said with Eric's comments, disproportionately impacting rural Colorado. We wrote a letter about that, gave it to the governor. The governor took it pretty seriously. We received a call from DNR and talked to our attorney and a few others. Looks like they missed some major steps. And we have water commissioners on our side. We have the water boards on our side. So we look forward to discussion with the state here in about a week on that. So I just mentioned that, Mr. Chair, because just like Eric did, I'm sure you have comments. We have to constantly be aware. That's really what your commissioners are doing these days, on top of life, health, safety, and the roads and the snow removal and everything else you see in passing a budget. Our way of life is under attack. And I don't think it's purposeful for most of them. It is for about 20%. They just don't know what they're doing. And so this time of year until the end of May, you'll be hearing these types of reports. But I think between gun rights, between water rights, between our public lands that we steward, between public safety, suicide, our kids, all this, there's plenty to worry about. And so just want to sensitize the county to it, and it's important. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Well, to continue a theme, but I won't go into many details. I've been working with Dylan Pepper, our CCI legislative aide that works on tax and finance issues. I was up there yesterday and been doing lots of stuff online. We're making some headways on some of our tax bills, but there's a couple of them going through that are pretty significant, and CCI is putting their weight behind them and opposing some of those bills. I'll be up there again on Friday. Just more stuff where we're doing our part educating people, trying to get some professionalism added to the concept and get that conversation about all counties are not the same. Downtown Denver is not the same as Park County or Logan County or Teller County. And we're getting some of those conversations held, and we're making a few headways on some tax bills. I tend to focus a lot on the tax bills just because I assist in the management of that tax and finance committee. So it's a lot of work. It's legislative season and we got 60 days to go or so, something like that. So been busy on that. Been working with CTSI and some operational things. I happen to be chair of the workers' comp board that we serve on, and we're a customer of, and there's 47 counties that buy our workers' comp insurance, and we're trying to do some internal processes to make sure we're doing the right thing amongst all of our policyholders, because it's a great way to buy our insurance, and it's way cheaper than going on the open market on a commercial line or a private line to buy workers' comp. As you noticed today in our accounts payable run, we have some limited gaming impact grants. I happen to serve on that committee, and those checks are out for last year's gaming grant application process, and we'll be distributing those checks to some of our nonprofits like Community of Caring, Community Partnership, and CASA. So it's great to see them get some reimbursement for those gaming issues that not everybody gets tax monies. Some people gets gaming grant, gets the local gaming tax, but some don't. And this is the way to assist them when they have impacts from gaming because they're not in the license structure to get taxes. But they can apply for grants and nonprofits can get their assistance and help offset some of those costs they have to dealing with gaming issues in our community. Been also working on our works allocation committee, and that is a committee that determines our TANF funds. And TANF is temporary to needy family. It's one of our multitude of funding streams in our social services world. And we're working on formulas, adjusting things, and I happen to serve on that for many years, so I've been spending lots of time on that. And on our never-ending story of our Pikes Peak Workforce Center, we're trying to get down to the end of the Department of Labor at the federal level audit, which went after us for a bunch of, I would call them tiddlywinks issues that have no significant impact on their operations because they get pretty good funding of several $1 million things, and they're after us for a couple $100 here and $100 there. And we spent thousands of dollars working with them, showing where the funds expended for some of the things that they do are legal and have Department of Labor rights and have community labor and enforcement at the state rights. And we spent this money, but it's a never-ending process that we've been going through for months now, trying to get past their audit and close off the audit itself for procedures and the services they provide, which are workers training, employment training and stuff. None of those were ever issues, but as I would say, as a past auditor, and they took some low-hanging fruit that every auditor in the world does at every corporate or government deal and attack some baby stuff that is immaterial. So as a past auditor, I've been working with them a lot on that. So I could talk forever on some tax bills, but we probably killed the legislative stuff enough in this process, so I think I'll leave it at that. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of time consuming during this legislative season. All right, next up, we have some elected officials report, and we'll start with you, Stephanie Keys, our clerk and recorder.
Thank you. Just an update on the election. It went very well. We had a record turnout for Teller County in any kind of primary election, which is almost 50%. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but we usually get about 37%. Just some statistics we received. About 9,300 ballots back. 3% of those were vote in person. So the rest were vote by mail. So we're excited about that. We did get those in a little bit later than we normally do, but I'm sure that had something to do with the U.S. Supreme Court ruling. We still have about 70 ballots that can cure, and they have until the 8th to do that. Yeah,
Wow.
the 13th actually.
Okay.
Sorry. And we had about 3,400 unaffiliated voters. We don't know how they voted, Republican or Democrat, yet we're still in the process of doing that manual data entry. So other than that, it went really great. We had some new judges and they were fantastic. Our runners were great. We were caught up by noon and we were out of there by 11, so it was good. So that's my report.
Yeah, thank you, Steffi. If I could, Mr. Chairman, I know you've reviewed processes, we've upgraded software. I know we've paid that bill with you. We've heard from election judges, you've seen a lot on social media. So just hats off to you. I think we've got a lot of twists and turns coming this year, with a presidential year, to say it kindly. And so I just want to reassure the residents of this county that we've got a solid clerk and recorder, we've got good processes. And anybody that has questions can call us, but I'm real proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to echo Commissioner Williams' statements as well as for 2 points. One is to remind everybody that there are no national elections. There aren't really even state elections. There in Colorado, there are 64 separate elections that are all run by county clerks. So we certainly appreciate ours. So thank you, Stephanie, and your staff.
Yes.
It's so much work to prepare and to make sure that everything is set up right. And then the process of going through, including training all those election judges, and many thanks to those people who have stepped up to become election judges. We certainly appreciate them. And I know you wouldn't be able to run the election without them. So we appreciate them as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. My congrats and thank you so much for your good work. We're all in support.
Thank you.
Carol Kinnison, our assessor, any report?
Nothing today, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer, I know you have an item on agenda. Do you have a report? in the
I'll save it
meantime?
for that.
All right. I think that's it for our elected officials. Next up, we have administrator report. Mr. Herzog.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple updates. I know with staffing, we are moving forward with, in our planning department, you'll see a position posted for code enforcement for the county. In addition to that, we're working hard to just go through our strategic plan and bring that forward to the board. Next couple of weeks, I could see.
Look at this, Chair. I just want to thank you, Ross, on the strategic plan. As we know, for those that haven't seen it before, that drives our budget. You know, I know Vicky, you know how important that is to us. So commissioners did take a hard look at that earlier this week, and you've got that. I also just want to thank you and Fred for all the hard work. Mud season came early this year. And again, we respect every one of our residents, even the ones that complain or say good things. The reason why I say that is we've had probably, like most years, about a 10 to 15% turnover of some new folks that have come to tell her they live on dirt roads. They haven't seen what happens when mud season hits, and it's brutal. And especially if you don't have the right car. I think I told Ross I had 4 cars pile up just outside my ranch gate over the weekend. And so I just ask for your forbearance, continued patience. We have a full team now. Every one of our snow plows are out there. Guys are out there trying to do things. It just gets worse between now and probably April. And then on top of that, you know, so we get snow coming again. So just want to say thank you. You guys have got a great team and just patience for our people. But, you know, if you have complaints, call us and we'll get you the right people. But most of the time, it's just not understanding what it's like to live at 10,000 feet on a muddy road. So, but thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, sir. And yes, mud season seemed to come early this year. So we're still anticipating another couple of months, but we think next week is kind of.
Yeah.
Next up, we have department heads. Mr. Teague, our emergency manager, have a report for us?
Yes, sir.
JT, Director, Office of Emergency Management. Just give you guys an update on where we are with our workflow right now for this first quarter. We're about halfway through the Teller County Emergency Operation Plan rewrite. We're probably end of the month going to present you with the first draft to review. This will be completely in line and in accordance with the new state template for county EOPs. Our CWPP, the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, is still moving forward. We've had multiple sessions with that. As you know, CUSP, Coalition Upper South Platte, is the tip of the spear leading that effort. We've had a lot of stakeholders brought to the table. We're getting a lot of good input for that. It's going to be a pretty large data flow that we have to condense and consolidate, but I'm thinking our CWPP rewrite to replace the 2011 is going to be a lot more robust. And it's going to actually have a lot more data in it that's going to be useful to us, as well as our subdivisions and communities that are going after some of these mitigation grants, and so on and so forth. We had our second session on Monday for our CEPA. It's the Colorado Emergency Preparedness Assessment. This is Colorado's assessment that they do of emergency management offices at the county level. They come in and they look at what our current capabilities are, what our hazard and threat matrix looks like, and then what we are doing to fill those gaps. We are ahead of the curve. State of Colorado, the 2 reps that are doing our assessment, we're very pleased with our office, said that we're way ahead of the curve as far as completion of the CEPA. So that's moving along very well. Our office facilitated multiple trainings here in Teller County, as well as supported training in some of our neighboring counties. So Park, Chaffee, El Paso County, some others have benefited from some of the trainings that we've coordinated and hosted. Jessica, the Deputy Director, she has secured a seat on the advisory council now for the Colorado Forest Collaborative. You guys are aware that that collaborative, as well as the subcommittee that we now have a chair on as well, looks at critical infrastructure and ranks those priorities for protection, as well as receiving some of that mitigation money that's coming down from the state and federal level. And so now we have a voice on that committee representing Teller County to protect our infrastructure and make sure that it's getting prioritized accordingly to protect our residents here in Teller. The CERT team, the Community Emergency Response Team, as you know, is up and running. We've already had one community training on the west side of the county. We're doing one this week in Woodland Park. We're starting to see an uptick in volunteers that are joining the CERT team. That'll be a huge asset again for us to have back in Teller County, especially during wildfire season, things like that. We can utilize that team for assistance in mass evacuations and whatnot of our subdivisions. We've worked with Director Clifford in Public Works, and we've secured some workspace up here at the facility here in Cripple Creek for our new radio specialist. He's actually heading over there right now to inspect and take keys and ownership to that space so that he'll have a workspace. That specialist position that you guys so graciously funded for me has done already knocked out quite a few projects that have been in the hopper for Teller County that we're awaiting probably weeks, if not months, completion, because we're waiting on the contractors and third parties to complete those. And you'll see at the end of the year with the cost benefit analysis that I'm running for that position that he's already paid for his salary. So that program is going really well for us in emergency management. We met last week with state DTRS reps for the digital trunking radio system, as well as Peppercorn, the Pikes Peak Regional Communications Group, as well as Core Electric. Core Electric has given us rights to move our microwave link and run new fiber up on our comm site in Badger. That's going to take a whole leg out of our comm system for failure, making our system about 33% more redundant or less points of failure. We're also upgrading those microwaves for that project this summer that you gentlemen approved for my CIP request for that capital improvement. So that's going to improve, it's going to improve connectivity, radio signal across the whole county for our first responders. And then it's also going to make that system a lot more reliable, so to speak. And then also in that project, we've got approved, and we just worked with Park County this week on that, because it's going to affect part of their comm system up there. They're going to actually benefit from our project as well. And we're upgrading those microwaves on a couple of those tower sites, Tenderfoot, Badger, and then Gold Hill. So our very outdated microwave system that we have that we struggle with keeping it online is going to be completely updated with the latest and greatest technology. So that's going to be really good for Teller County. We are kind of taking lead this year on the planning part for the Pikes Peak Hill Climb Race. We've had 2 meetings now with El Paso County, as well as we've had other stakeholders, state police, Life Flight, multiple first responder agencies to develop that plan, make it a lot more robust for that event this year. As you know, we're starting to see more risk of wildfire around the mountain that time of year. We've had 2 tornadoes in that month on the side of Pikes Peak. So, the old plan didn't have a mass evacuation plan or concerns for tornadoes, things like that. So we're adding all of that into the plan. Deputy Director Flores has been bumped up from just a seat on the E911 Council. So now she is the vice chair of the E911 Council, again, improving our representation with them for Teller County. We are participating in a state agricultural tabletop exercise in April. That'll work with our CART team, our animal control, stuff like that. It's an improvement process for dealing with large scale livestock emergencies. Again, us being highly agricultural and ranching community, that's going to benefit our residents. The BDA, the bidirectional antenna installation at the sheriff's office, was completed. So now all those comm issues that we were having within the facility itself has been remedied. And now that facility is a lot more usable. You can use radios anywhere in that facility now. Makes it safer for our law enforcement officers, but then also if we're utilizing that facility as the emergency operations center during a large scale emergency for Teller County, that enhances our capabilities in there and got rid of all those comm obstacles that we were having. And then we have a G191 class coming up that we're hosting for all of our neighboring counties. It'll be hosted here in Teller County up in Woodland Park. That is the Incident Command Post Emergency Operations Center interface class that FEMA puts on. We're hosting that. I'm actually teaching part of that class, but we already have representatives coming from several other counties. So that Teller County is leading the way also on providing that training through the Office of Emergency Management. That's all I have. If you have questions for me.
Not too many irons in your fire, huh?
Now, I was going to say, Mr. Chair, just 2 things real quick. And also we've got the Wildfire Council next week, which
That's right.
you and I co-chair, and that's important, just because there's a lot of snow on there. The Air Force Academy found out, 7 days ago, our season in Texas is still on fire. So thanks for your help on that. One question I have, and like Bob said, not a lot of Chief, I appreciate your leadership because you have taken emergency management to the level. One question, you had briefed commissioners last year, and there was a death, I think, associated with the large scale military exercise where we have a downed aircraft. If with the world being what it is, you know, we're seeing more and more military aircraft fly over Teller County at night.
Mhm.
Probability is an old pilot, we're gonna lose one at some point. And I know they had approached us about that. Is that still on the table?
Yeah, so they've done two that they had on the table down in the Colorado Springs area. And so we did go down to participate in that just so that we're on the level with all those key stakeholders in the event we do have a down military aircraft. But I have made multiple requests. You know, we did have one scheduled last year until Peterson Air Force Base's emergency manager actually passed away and postponed that exercise. And we have made multiple requests out to the leadership about possibly hosting and doing an exercise here for a downed, whether it be a helicopter or a jet aircraft. And then we are definitely, that's on the radar because we are seeing an uptick. If you look at the sortie routes and schedules that the military aircraft are flying through and over Teller County, we get complaints every week to my office about the low flying aircraft doing training evolutions and buzzing people's houses and things like that. And so no, we're definitely in the loop, working with those emergency management offices out of Peterson, Fort Carson, and the Air Force Academy. But I have not gotten anything definitive on getting to host an exercise here in Teller County.
Let me know if you need help with that. I think to your point, and not to belabor it, but in the past, so Fourth Infantry Division has helicopters and, you know, Shriever's got some things. These aircraft we're seeing now are local. And so they're coming here because we have how to training routes. And so the probability, as you know, when your experience goes up, that they're going to have an accident. So I think the word host is right, and we could come up with some payment in kind. But if you need help with that, let me know. Just some key people just so we could delineate the differences between what you do, what the sheriff does. As you know from your past and mine as well, there's always a fight when someone, you know, goes down here, who goes what, and so to work that out now, peace done before something bad happens.
And I will add that the two aircraft incidences that we had in Teller County this last summer, I would say we have a lot more robust understanding and response capability now than we had just a year ago. But then you throw in the extra factors of DoD asset going down, and then them bringing in their area liaison and management officer for their assets, which is based out of Peterson. We have a lot better relationship working with those individuals now than we did a year ago. So I think if we had a down aircraft incident in the near future, we're better off than we were. But I think it's a high priority that we do an exercise for our first responder agencies to get plugged into that, because you bring in all those security issues that are brought in with the military asset that goes down on civilian property or public property. So,
and you know, search and rescue, mental health, when you pick up bodies, I mean, you guys went through all that, and that wasn't lost on the commissioners. And I know I talked to Jason about that too. So for us as team, there's 5 or 6 entities, public works, you know, trying to bust up there in this kind of terrain. So yeah, let us know if you need help on that. But I think if we put that out there, they're planning their exercises now for the summer.
yes, sir.
Even if it's tabletop or just, you know, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Great job.
Well, thank you for all your efforts. I appreciate everything you're doing. We're getting better and better every day. And it's thanks to you and Jessica. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And I'll be short, ditto. I mean, you did a great job.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
Really appreciate it. And that updated CWPP plan, there's some fund dollars there that we'll be able to go after for mitigation once we get that done.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's great. And I'm sure you're tracking, I think last count I had, there's like 3 bills that are potentially going to impact your office, whether some of it's mitigation and some of it is some hazardous materials, but I guess, hazardous material stuff
Yep.
that's coming through the legislature. I'm sure you're tracking, but if
We
you need
are.
help on any of those, let me.
Yeah, we
let
are
us
in
know.
the CERC at the state level is keeping us abreast of how those changes are going to impact us at the county levels. I actually read through, I think, a 30-something page brief yesterday on 2 of those bills and how it's going to affect us down at the county level. So yes, sir, we are staying on it.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
Vicky, did you have a report? Yeah, okay. I thought maybe you were gonna talk about the travel funds. I'm sorry?
We'll do the business items.
Okay. All right, next up, we have time reserved for public that don't have items on the agenda. Any public would like to speak? Yes, sir. Just come up and introduce yourself so we know a name.
Absolutely. First, want to start by thanking all of you for your service to the county. And my name is Daniel Stevens. I am a commercial and residential real estate broker have been for 20 years. I'm accompanied today by my wife, and she joined forces with me about 5 years ago. We don't always agree with each other, but we still love each other. And then we also have Bob and Ann Mantooth with us today. And so I want to turn the mic over to them so they can quickly discuss why we are here today, and we're going to hang in the shadows in case there's other specifics that we can help answer.
Did you have some?
I'm just gonna say, yeah, your first name, please, just for the record, and then the spelling on Mantooth would help us.
Oh, go ahead.
My name? No, your wife's name.
Oh, Tiffany
Tiffany, thank
Stevens
you.
with a PH.
My last name is Mantooth, spelled Mantooth.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm gonna read you a little story about my family that we found out about 2 years ago. And in 1884, my great grandfather, John Olver, boarded a ship in Cornwall, England, and headed to Victor, Colorado to try his hand at mining. Jack of all trades, he mined and owned rights to several placer claims. He was a blacksmith. He ran a sawmill in Victor in the Cunningham division. He married his sweetheart Dora in 1891. And together they had 5 children in Victor. They ranched in government land, owned cattle and horses, and raised their children in Victor. In 1911, John purchased lots 7 and 8 in block 104. He then purchased lots 3, 4, and 11 through 15 in block 103. He later bought lots 9 and 10 in block 103. He died in 1915 in a snowstorm. My grandma was 7 at the time. After he died, my grandma's mother Dora was able to buy lot 16 and lot 103. So they all owned a lot of land in 103. Our family and me, my sister, we were trying to see if we could get some of that land back in the family. It's our heritage. So we tried, and people weren't willing to sell to us. But we looked and saw that you had in lot 104, the Teller County, lots 1 through 7. We were hoping for our family and our heritage to maybe be able to buy some of that land and get it back. And that's why we're here. So if you have any questions for me.
No, that's good. I used to be the planning director for the county, so I'm pretty familiar with land use. I'm not familiar with this particular case. In general, the county doesn't try to own land. We usually get it because somebody's defaulted. So I guess one question I'd like to start with, have you talked to Mr. Swallow? Have you worked any of this with our planner or community development, or has he hasn't heard of this? And Ross, you're not tracking that either, right?
No, so this isn't on purchase,
Right.
and it would be a public process,
Right.
and there is a bunch of required plan.
Yeah, and so that's one thing, so that we do have so that's not an answer, it's just, we do have a team that can work with you, look at it. Ross's comment is, and not as my time when I was down as a planner, there are times where the county will sell property back that we don't need, but there is a process. And so let's say if I was the neighbor, if you've been over to Goldfield or Victor, that whole area, and I said, wait a minute, I've been here, and they all have a long heritage, and that's a respectful comment. There's a process there to keep it fair and open, and I think the realtors, you guys know how that works. The other challenge with that place is it's all agriculturally zoned. And so if you're looking at a 25-foot wide piece of property, you have to have a 50-foot setback. So you're right in thinking that you have to buy multiple, you have to buy a block to be able to build there to do that. And so it's agricultural land. You might ask the question, why don't we rezone it? That's come up many times over the years. That's not what that community wants. They have their goats, they have their, it is what it is. So to make it useful to you, you've got to buy multiple. And I just would remind you that 50 foot from both sides. And so, but in my time there, we did have people build new homes there. They just had to buy a big plot. So there's a process like Ross says.
Okay.
But like I said, my recommendation, Mr. Chair, would be to get Mr. Swallow and have them put together a package, bring it back to us. I'm sure you already have it, just bringing it back so we could look at it and come back to you. I don't know, for the attorneys, Paul, do you think that's sort of what we've done in the past?
That is, yeah. The starting point is the planning department, with Mr. Swallow. If you don't have that information, Mr. Herzog can get it. And then ultimately, and I prevent them from thinking about issues until they actually come up on a formal agenda. So we're not trying to, deter you from coming here to raise the issue. But if you can go through that process, and work with them, that's the best way to get about it.
The other thing I'd just like to add, depending on how the land was acquired, we may have a treasurer's who related to the taxes, if it happened to be a treasurer's deed or whatever, how it came into our inventory. So we may have to connect with the treasurer in that process also.
You're lucky they're both here today. So you guys already talked at all about this issue or no?
No, we've not.
Are you guys out of town or are you local?
I came up from Thornton, Colorado.
Okay, good. So I mean, it really up to your schedule, but our assessors there with, when I start seeing properties, account numbers, whatever, so you have some very knowledgeable people. I would encourage you just get as much research as you can today from them if they have time. And then the planners department and CDSD, both Mr. Swallow, and they're down in Tamarack, which is Woodland Park. So you want to, while I call them, just tell them that you just left us and that was our recommendation. You'll find them very user friendly. So.
And just a couple other questions. So the county owns the property. Is it inside the corporate limits of the town of Victor, or do you know it for where that's located? So actually they have.
Is it Victor or Goldfield?
Is it Victor or Goldfield?
Goldfield's
The
on.
county is Victor.
So it's the town of Victor.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they would actually have,
They would have the zoning,
The
rights, but
zoning,
not too much
yeah,
else.
the zoning authority, yeah. So,
Yeah, there is.
and just as a comment, first off, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, trying to accomplish. I've actually been doing a lot of research on my own family and what they used to own. Actually, Stone County, Missouri was named after my four-time great grandfather, and I've been pulling all the land grant information from the Bureau of Land Management back in the 1830s, 1840s, just to kind of figure out what did they own back then, not necessarily with the intent of going out and buying any of it, but I can understand why, you would have, an emotional and familial attachment to want to kind of go back and pull that back into your family. So, but yeah, if you could, get with our Division of Planning and kind of look at what that process is and start at it. And as, the county attorney mentioned, there's a public process that would have to be gone through, because we can't, can't do an under the table deal on anything. So everything's got to be transparent. So I appreciate you coming, Mr. and Mrs. Bantooth, and welcome to Teller County first off. We'll help in whatever way that we can process. And of course, we can't, telegraph anything that this board might do from that, because honestly, right now, we don't know much about it. But appreciate you coming to us with the interest, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you for
And
listening.
keep Ross Herzog in mind. He's our county manager. And so it eventually will come through him. This is his staff that we're talking about. Other than the elected officials are autonomous. And so any issues, anybody not working with you friendly, you can't get to whatever, you won't encounter that. But just any of that friction, just let Ross know and he'll keep us moving.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Do you mind if we take the time now, since we have the appropriate contacts here, to get the contact?
That's fine. We can take a few seconds, yeah.
Is that okay?
You know what, if you guys want, I can take it back to my office and I can get you all.
You have everybody.
Does
Okay.
that work for you guys?
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Carol.
Thank you. All right, we're still in open public comment. Is there anybody else that has public comment for this board at this point? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to our next regular agenda item. Administration, consider a resolution supporting the grant application, community impact grant from the State Board of Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund, and the completion of fluorescent community park improvements project. Ross, are you going to handle this one?
Yes, sir. I didn't hear you, Madam Clerk.
Tim?
Before you is a resolution. So this is our fluorescent park. We had approved earlier a phase one. The scope of that project increased significantly from just some playground equipment to now it's bathrooms, pavilion, drainage, landscaping. And so with that, the amount of funding, we did look for a GoCo grant to help do a phase two to bring some of those items to that park for the community. This GoCo grant would provide $371,818.49 to allow that phase two to happen. Reviewing it with staff, there's no concerns. it does impact financially that we would be putting in a $25,000 match of money from our coffers that we didn't anticipate originally. So with that, any questions on it?
Does the phase one also count as far as part of the storyline behind some of that? If we're applying for a grant, that we're doing phase one and the commitment there is obviously larger than the 25K.
It is, and
Okay.
the actual application, is pretty significant.
Okay.
The GoCo grant application, it tells the history quite well.
I just didn't want to miss our commitment earlier to the project in whole. Yeah. All right, you want to read the resolution?
Certainly. So this is a resolution number 0307-2024-10, a resolution supporting the grant application for a community impact grant from the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund for the completion of the Florissant Community Park Improvements Project, whereas Teller County has applied for a $371,818.49 community impact grant from Great Outdoors Colorado to complete the Florissant Community Park Improvements Project, and whereas the Board of County Commissioners supports Teller County's Great Outdoors Colorado grant application for the Florissant Community Park Improvements Project, and if the grant is awarded, the board supports the completion of the project. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado. Section 1, the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County strongly supports the application for a community impact grant from Great Outdoors Colorado. Section 2, if the grant is awarded, the chair of the Board of County Commissioners will sign the grant agreement with Great Outdoors Colorado. Section 3, if the grant is awarded, the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County strongly supports the completion of the project. Section 4, if the grant is awarded, the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County authorizes the expenditure of funds necessary to meet the terms and obligations of the grant agreement adopted at the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado on the 7th day of March 2024.
All right, thank you, sir. Since this is a public agenda item, is there any comment from the public on this resolution? All right, hearing none. Did we have any questions from commissioners on this?
Thanks, Ross.
Yeah, no questions, just the comment, thanks for going after this, and because obviously the improvements to the park are a lot more expensive than where we started, and these reasons, and it's nice to go after some of these grants. I know we haven't gone after, specific grants for quite a few years, and so it certainly should be our turn as they look at the history of Teller County, so thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve resolution number 0307-2024, number 10, a resolution supporting the grant application for a community impact grant from the State Board of Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund for the completion of the Florissant Community Park Improvements Project.
Second the motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, assuming no other discussion, roll call, please. Ms.
Mr.
Keith?
Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes. I appreciate it, Ross. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross.
Next up, we have our 955 item. Consider a resolution approving a loan agreement between Colorado Resources and Power Development Authority and the Teller County Wastewater Utility Enterprise.
Vicki Caldwell, Finance Director. So just to talk about it beforehand, as you are aware, our wastewater plant is required to upgrade due to new regulations and older equipment. And since there is a desire for more housing and businesses to come into the Divide area, we can't, and those cannot happen until there's an expansion of the wastewater plant. It has been determined that the best plan is to include expansion in with the wastewater upgrades of the plant. So this is for a loan agreement. We're looking for multiple ways to finance this and find additional funding. This is a loan agreement, but it is 100% forgiven, so there is no repayment required.
Sure.
This matter is before you as the board for the wastewater
Resource.
recess need to, but just to make the record clear, you're currently sitting as the board for the wastewater utility to hear the resolution and Vicky's presentation.
All right, duly noted in the record. We are the wastewater utility boards for a few minutes.
Okay. Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado, acting by and through the Teller County Wastewater Utility Enterprise Board, resolution number 37/2024, number 11. Approving a loan agreement between the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority and the Teller County Wastewater Utility Enterprise. Whereas the Teller County Wastewater Utility, TICWU, is a duly created water activity enterprise existing under the provisions of Title 37, Article 45.1, Colorado Revised Statutes, Water Activity Law. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado, the board, is acting hereunder as the governing board of TICWU. And whereas TICWU is a government-owned business and is an enterprise within the meaning of Article 10, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution, authorized to issue its own revenue bonds and receiving under 10% of annual revenue and grants from all Colorado state and local governments combined. And whereas TICWU has no authority to levy or collect or use in its operations taxes, whether sales taxes, use taxes, or ad valorem taxes. And whereas the board has heretofore determined to perform necessary improvements to TICWU's wastewater system, including but not limited to A, an expansion of the wastewater treatment plant because the facility has reached its end of design life, and B, to upgrade existing equipment, the project, with said project to be operated and maintained as part of the TICWU wastewater system, the system. And whereas TICWU previously submitted a project needs assessment to the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority, the CWRPDA, or the authority, for financing under the Federal Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund to finance a portion of the project, and TICWU has been approved for a loan to finance a portion of the design and engineering costs of the project. Whereas the board has determined and hereby determines that it is in the best interest of TICWU, the county, and the residents of the county to enter into a loan agreement, the loan agreement with CWRPDA, pursuant to which the CWRPDA will loan to TICWU an amount not to exceed $300,000 to finance a portion of the design and engineering cost of the project in accordance with the terms of the loan agreement. And whereas pursuant to the terms of the loan agreement, 100% of the principal amount of the loan will be forgiven at the loan closing. And whereas none of the members of the board have any potential conflicting interest in connection with the authorization, issuance of the loan agreement, or the use of the proceeds thereof. And whereas the board desires to authorize the loan agreement and the execution of the foregoing documents. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Teller County Wastewater Utility as follows. Section 1, approval of loan agreement. The loan agreement in substantially the form presented herewith between CWRPDA and TICWU and evidencing a loan from the CWRPDA to TICWU is hereby approved, and TICWU is authorized to undertake and complete the project. Section 2, authorization to execute documents. The chairman is hereby authorized and directed to take all actions necessary or appropriate to effectuate the provisions of this resolution, including but not limited to the execution of the loan agreement and related documents as may be reasonably required. Section 3, authorized officers, Bob Campbell, chairman, and Ross Herzog, as utility manager, Vicky Caldwell, finance director, are hereby authorized to act as the authorized officer of the loan agreement as such term is therein defined, and to furnish their names to the CWRPDA in accordance with the loan agreement. Section 4, severability. If any section, paragraph, clause, or provision of this resolution shall for any reason be held to be invalid or unenforceable, invalidity or unenforceability of such section, paragraph, clause, or provision shall not affect any of the remaining provisions of this resolution, the intent being that the same are severable. Section 5, effective date. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption.
Thank you, Vicky.
Yes, Mr. Chair, in section 1 it references the loan agreement, and that loan agreement is not before you today to sign because it's still in negotiation. That loan agreement attached to that is a guarantee by the for the performance under the loan, also includes a opinion of council letter that draft submitted. And myself and with Caldwell to get those things finalized. What this does is the first step in the process to authorize it to go forward and authorize the authorized to then go ahead and execute those following documents. Everything looks to be in order. We have not received any pushback at all from the state. Their loan agreements follow a typical loan format coming down from the state, so we didn't recreate the wheel on this. So that's the status of where that is, and this is a step in the process, and hopefully a little bit of a nudge to the state to say, we're ready, and them along with the rest of those documents.
Question, Mr. Chair? if I may?
Sure.
So just understanding the procedural process of the loan itself is, since we don't have the loan yet in front of us, but it does say within the resolution that pursuant, I'm assuming to general terms of a loan agreement. Essentially, we have a loan for about a second on closing, and then it's forgiven on closing, correct?
Kind of. So
How's that work exactly?
you can address, but it's two payments back to us.
Yeah, it's actually, the way the state said is that it is forgiven immediately. But they will give us 80% of the $300,000 as soon as we have signed the loan agreement and submit a reimbursement request. The following 20% is considered a match at that time. And then if at a certain point, when we go for the state revolving fund loan, which we're planning in 2025 to do, that is part of, they will close this loan and give us the 20% back. So it is 100% forgiven, but we only get 80% of it until probably 2025.
Okay, thank you.
When do we think we'll execute this?
Right now, we're on their legal counsel.
Yeah, I'm
Still debt free right now.
Yes.
yes. This is just,
And we'll still be debt free as soon as you sign that because it's immediately forgiven according to the state.
That's something this board's really proud of, and obviously, Vicky, we understand that process. Where we're at in our current timelines, it's board to be debt free right now.
Yes.
All right.
And they won't change the language really. Do you have to keep referencing loan?
I know, I tried to make it say grant and they're like, no, it is a loan, but we do principal forgiveness. And I'm still working on with the auditors as to how that would be actually shown on the books. Do I actually have to show it as a loan
Right.
and then immediately show it as satisfied or?
Probably technically so.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your hard work.
In the meantime, it'll count.
Yeah.
It must.
Right. Any other questions, commissioners?
No, sir.
I'll open this up at the wastewater utility board for any public comments. Hearing none, what would be the choice of the wastewater board for this motion?
So Chair, I'll make a motion. The Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado, acting by and through the Teller County Wastewater Utility Enterprise Board, us, recommend we approve resolution number 11, which approves a loan agreement between Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority and the Teller County Wastewater Utility Enterprise.
Okay. All right, assuming no other discussion by the board, roll call please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. And our business is the wastewater utility board, so we'll now continue as the Teller County Commissioner. And we have our Teller County Treasurer to report the acceptance and authorize the publishing of the Teller County semi-annual report from July 1st, 2023 through December 2023.
Good morning, everyone. Commissioners.
Yeah.
I'm Crystal Brown, Teller County Clerk and Recorder with the semi-annual Teller County Treasurer's
Brown?
Report.
You may want to correct your current title.
Did I say Clerk and
You
Recorder?
did.
I catch myself doing that. I'm so sorry. I'm Crystal Brown, the Treasurer, not the Clerk and Recorder. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
I didn't even notice.
I saw Jerry.
Thank
My
you
fault
for-
against the big-
That's right.
All right, I have the treasurer's report for the period of July 1st, 2023 through December 31st of 2023. Looking first at the county funds, if you look at the end balance, we have $35,161,464.68 at the end of December. I did pull the report from the last BoCC meeting because we were off 2 cents. And like my predecessors, I would like to bring you the perfect report. And so now we are balanced to the T. I would like to thank Vicky and Violet for that also, and Bob Campbell. I appreciate their input and giving me some ideas on where to look and what to do. You know, when you think you're dealing with $35 million and you're worried about 2 cents, but you know, that little 2 cents was haunting me. So I'm proud that we are right on, excuse me, that we balance to the penny. You can look also at the balance sheet that's also provided, and that's just proof that we did balance to the T. And then also, if you look at that report, I'm at the bottom of the semi-annual report, you will see that we did have to hold the distribution funds for an entity. However, that has all been resolved and we have distributed all funds to all entities. Please keep in mind that this is not at all an indication of physical or financial well-being of our districts or entities, but rather a report of funds that have been collected from the Teller County Treasurer's Office and distributed within the first 10 business days of each new month. Do you have any questions for that?
No, I'd just like to point out, this is an activity report of 6 months worth of processing that you do between collections, transfer of funds and payouts to each of the entities. As of December 31st, which you had no responsibility during those activities,
Right.
but you were responsible for producing the report since our former treasurer has left. The ending balance in the entity funds, 10 days later, if not maybe even a little bit later because of the one distribution, the ending balance in the entity funds all disappear because on like January 8th or 9th or 10th, somewhere in there, all those funds get distributed. But as of the 31st, they held these funds on behalf of those agencies, so.
Absolutely correct. Thank you, Bob. I can scratch my whole paragraph. Thanks. But that is completely cool. So, and since this report, since we've done that, we've done 2 distributions. So yesterday I'm enjoying it and getting my feet wet, and I'm actually learning all of it. So we did our distributions yesterday. Then also, as far as the tax collection has gone, we're at 30.34%. So we have collected $12,604,821.20 as of yesterday. So we're right at where we were last year, even with it being held back a little bit because of the legislator, we are still right on target and we're doing great. So by April, we're looking that would be most of them that will be completed. We also did submit our senior and veterans exemptions to the state. So thank you to the assessor's office for helping that. And that was also very enlightening to learn all of that. So next year, Sharon and I are going to be pros. And with all of that, I just have one other thing that I'd like to mention. Sharon Marloff had her 5-year anniversary yesterday. She's very shy and did not want to be brought in front of the board, but I just can't go on without her recognizing her. The HR provided a wonderful little gift and the certificate for her. We brought her flowers and cake and celebrated her, but as you know, I'm new to the position and she's huge in that treasurer's office. So the treasurer's office could have not done it without her. And she is very humble and very shy, but she is wonderful. And I'm thankful for her every day.
Well, thank you for that. And we lend our congratulations for her 5-year anniversary. I understand time in my office, my deputy treasurer did not want to do that, but We at least got her here during that retirement.
I tried, but I told her. She's done a lot for me, so gotta give her a bone.
Thanks for everything.
Yes.
And again, just pass on the Sharon on our behalf. Next time we get over there, we'll give her a hug if she wants one or not. So,
Perfect.
yeah, thank you.
So pending your questions, that's all I have for you today.
Don't have any questions, Mr. Chair? Thank you.
Great. We need a motion for acceptance and authorization, then if you're all okay with it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept and authorize publishing of the Teller County Treasurer's semi-annual report for July first, 2023 through December 31st, 2023 as presented.
Second motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, assuming no other discussion, roll call please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Campbell?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, appreciate it, Crystal. All right, I think that's the end of our regular agenda items, so we'll now go to our commissioner's business item.
Thank you, sir. Before you, starting with is consider approval of amendment number 3 to Colorado Department of Human Services Behavioral Health Administration Contract number 3 IBEH 174479, increasing the fiscal year 24 funding by essentially we received an additional $6,000 in funding, so that will be made available to Teller County help address gaps and as well as treatment. So that would bring the new total of the revised budget to $418,824.
One question, Chair, and I know this is somewhat related, Ross, I'll put you on the spot, but when we had that wrinkle or the question on the behavioral health with the ambulances, EMS, remember that? And so I think we got a good answer last time from you, and then this is adding to that. So I want to make sure we don't add to a problem. This is actually helping, right? So
This is helping, and I did.
Services are good.
Yes.
Really, the pod just a reflection of the increase in mental health issues that we're seeing in some of our jail inmates as they come through, and the service costs increases.
And I think it was an increase of funding amount that the state was available to hand out.
And no other questions, Chair. Thanks, sir.
All right, what would be your choice on this amendment?
So, Chair, I move that we approve the amendment number 3 to the Colorado Department of Human Services Behavioral Health Administration Contract number 23, IBH 174479, increasing the FY 24 funding by $60,000.
I would second that motion.
All right, assuming no other questions, roll call please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. Next up, we have some PSAs.
Speaking of,
No.
before you is consider approval of professional service agreement. You'll see another one after this as well, but this is with Martin Marietta Materials Incorporated. It's not to services A with the price factor. Just the part of public works and having a lot of
That's where it was sourced, but I realize that's different than the next one, which is gravel, which is locally sourced, you know. So this is aggregate from somewhere else. I don't have any questions, sir.
Either, sir, and Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the professional services agreement with Martin Marietta Materials Incorporated as presented with any modifications requested by the contractor and approved by the county attorney.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Roll call please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
And just to confirm, most of the materials do come from Red Canyon.
Yeah.
And Parkdale. I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with Parkdale.
Up off 285, if I remember right.
Mule Creek, we know.
All right, moving on to consider approval of a professional service agreement with Mule Creek Gravel. This is not 400,000. And again, this is our gravel we put down. County, you will see in scope of services, it is from Mule Creek Gravel Pit. I just want to go into it because when I say just for 37 quarter-inch stone to, so this is all class 5 and class 6 gravel, which must meet specifications of the Colorado Department of Transportation standard specifications for road and bridge construction, specifications from the 2005 edition. Materials must meet section 703.03 and table 0703-3, including the AASHTO M147, LA abrasion, LLPL, and PL. In addition, the material must have an R value of 78 or greater, a CBR of 80 plus, and must be moisture stable. Moisture stability to be determined by R value testing, which shows a drop of 12 points or less in the R value between exudation pressure of 300 PSI and 100 PSI. So.
No, it's just, I mean, the commentaries we talked about earlier with forbearance for our residents, but this is an idea where the commissioners through you and Public Works are committed to public safety and roads, and it's nearly $500,000 to put gravel on a gravel road.
Right.
But that's the price of doing business and living up here, so I really appreciate it.
And you go by, you can see steadily left.
Not to focus on it, but I have to admit, years ago, I asked the difference between a class 4 and a class 5, and I got schooled and made fun of for years for that explanation. So
Now we can make fun of it.
what does that actually mean? All right, well, we get a choice on this PSA.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the professional service agreement, PSA with Mule Creek Gravel, as presented with any modifications requested by the contractor and as approved by the county attorney.
Second?
Roll call, please, Ms. Steen.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. Next up, we have another PSA, but not exactly the same.
And this is going, this is, an agreement with, PSA, excuse me, with Procom. So this is considered approval of a professional service agreement. Again, with their CDL licensing to get random drug testing screen. Also, if there's we contract schedule a fee service that charges per different test that we have to administer. No questions on it?
One question, Mr. Chair, Ross, on this one, so compliance routine drug testing, is this also the same county that does it if they have an accident?
We do use Procom.
Same. So it's the same move for anybody.
Base test.
Thanks, sir. Other questions? Sure.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, what would be your choice on this PSA agreement?
And Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the PSA with Procom professional compliance and testing as presented and along with any modifications requested by the contractor and approved by the county attorney.
Yes, sir.
Second motion, sir.
Roll call, Ms. Keith.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. Next up, we have a fifth asset discarding request.
And this is consider approval of fixed asset move discard submittal form from the sheriff's office, Jill. You will see the items are more detail are listed on the back. The 4 items, the first is a copier. Originally had a value of $5,608. The second is a forensic extractor, which had an original value of $5,494. The third is a sheriff's office annex security system. And the fourth is a detection device, which had a $30,000 value. I believe it was from 2008, and you'll see that that has a current book value of $1,500. And don't buy tech.
One question I'd have, and I know why they're doing this, to clear the books. And this is not a criticism of a good sheriff's department, but they ought to be asking in advance of discarding. Because if you just look at it, 3 of the 4 items have already been thrown away, one of them in 2008. So I know what they're doing in principle, and I have full faith and confidence, but I think there's a way just to like have it know that, hey, in the future, maybe there's a reason we don't want to discard it, or maybe there's a
Repurpose or-
whatever. So again, not a criticism, just process, but I know why they're doing this.
Yeah, this came up with that because of the values were
Right.
$5,000.
But we changed that.
Cleaned it up.
Yeah.
But as Mr. Williams said, we do have process and procedures, and it looks like we need to just remind them of that, and it just can't be, oh, it was discarded years ago.
Yeah.
And with the copiers, I think administration has always been in charge of the copier process. At a $5,000 value, I'm sure it was a minor copier, but administration's always been in charge of the copiers, so. All right, what's your choice on this approval?
Chair, I move that we approve fixed asset move / discard submittal from Teller County Sheriff's Office jail as presented.
Second?
Ms. Keats?
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
All right, moving on, this is a consider approval of Colorado Parks and Wildlife 2023 Impact Assistance Grant. This is the PILT application. Mr. Khanna did put this together, and it's requesting $5,625.19 back. Added up the number, it's $5,625.19. So how they get to it, it's very much there for it. That's what they did.
And this is the state's version of the federal PILT money we get. And the federal PILT money is quite significantly larger in this. And of our 13,000 acres, we get $5,000, which is 42 cents an acre. State's version of CPW's PILT process, so it's
I know there's an active bill trying to increase this and the national level, but you're right, it's pretty, not sure what we do with it.
pretty paltry in consideration of 13,000 acres, and this is the payment in lieu of taxes that we get, so.
Yeah, and this is the grazing section.
Yes.
All right, your choice on impact grant.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the Colorado Parks and Wildlife 2023 Impact Grant Assistance Application, also known as PILT.
Second the motion, sir.
Roll call, Ms. Keith.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
All right, moving on is item number 7, which is consideration of approving an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Victor and the county of Teller for law enforcement services. There were a few revisions on this. So I'll go back and forth, maybe. Attorney Kirkland can-
Yeah, we've had this in place for a number of years. There was just some cleanup in some of the language that was in this, nothing substantive, and I worked with this, and Mayor Manning has already signed on behalf of Victor, and the sheriff has signed, so this is the final approval on this. It maintains the same level of services maintained over in the city of Victor for a number of years.
Does the, well, this may be for you or for us, did the payment go up? Yeah, the contract saying that didn't it go up?
It has it over, I think there's an annual adjustment on this, and so yeah, it has gone up, not dramatically, but
Yeah, those I asked when all 3 of us went over for the sheriff's update, the concern for crime, whether, we don't perceive, they have a sobriety house over there now. There's a couple of things that are different, in the last year or two, but I guess if we're picking that up in costs.
yeah, in the last page, Exhibit A does show the costs on there. For example, if 3 deputies are assigned, then annual amount is $355,809.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, that reflects their pay raises too.
Yeah.
I see.
so yeah, as their salary and benefits, the increases that were approved in that flow service agreement or IGA.
Yeah, under Sheriff Bishop had gone through that, and made sure that the numbers reflect accurately.
I mean, the feedback, I don't know if you saw that letter we got, Ross, but one of the council people over there, just how pleased they are with the level and quality of law enforcement they're getting. So the fact that those pay raises were passed on and didn't even walk on. Yeah, so. No further questions, sir.
All right, what's your consideration on the IGA as presented then?
Chair, I move that we approve the intergovernmental agreement IGA between the city of Victor and the county of Teller, the law enforcement services as written and presented.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. All right, and then the one item that was on the front of our packet, but it's still included.
Yep, there was one additional item we received, and this is just for transparency. This was the local assistance and tribal assistancy fund, so LATCF. This is report. Well, and you'll see that the expenditures, obligations, and $257,634.02. And her report is attached that files with the state. Stuffing it, it's not required to,
We need a motion.
I think the motion would just be accept this and then you okay with it.
Yeah, I did get the confirmation email that she did file it the other day, so. I'll take the chair's prerogative and approve the local assistance and tribal consistency fund filing as presented by Director of Finance, Vicki Caldwell. For the amount shown, $257,634.02.
I'll take the vice chair's prerogative and second that, sir.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. Reason I got it.
prerogative.
Yeah, there's,
I'm on the email list for all those conversations. That's the only reason I did that as a chair. I'm sorry. Not to take procedure out of place, but I get all those emails and work with Vicki all the time, so. Thank you. Any more items to be brought in front of us?
no additional items were received, sir.
All right, if nothing else to be heard, I'll adjourn this meeting at 10:54. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.